Suno is getting sued again, but this time it's by two producers. It has nothing to do with the RIAA case. It has nothing to do with the class action lawsuit led by Miss Crystal. A production duo by the name of the American Dollar that has produced songs that have gotten syncs with major companies. They used to get tens of millions of Spotify plays. They are claiming that 80% of their total revenue has been lost since Suno launched. They're also claiming that they have gone onto Suno, typed in certain prompts, and the output has directly infringed on their copyrights. Now, what they do have in common with the RIAA is that they are suing for a specific dollar amount per infringed work. So they are claiming several hundred of their songs were used by Suno illegally, and they are charging a certain dollar amount per infringement, which totals beyond $35 million. Musicbusinessworldwide.com has published the complaint, and it's pretty thorough. Poseidon Wave Media LLC is the plaintiff, and this law firm is on point. They especially tear down Suno's fair use defense claim. But as you can see here, there's a lot going on. They're talking about Suno's valuation. They're talking about all of the copyright infringement actions that Suno has taken, that they've admitted to taking. And as you can see, they only have 54,000 monthly listeners, but at one point, I mean, one of their tracks got damn near 50 million plays. So they're claiming that right after Suno launched, their streams dropped off, their sync money dried up, which is crazy because I did say this actually in a previous video that sync would be the most affected by Suno. I think I was wrong and that lo-fi was probably the most affected, but Suno has certainly affected synchronization licensing pretty directly. And now this is a huge problem because a lot of people who don't know shit about the law are claiming that Suno training on copyrighted material, millions, hundreds of millions of copyrighted songs, is actually protected by fair use. Now, I've talked about this again and again and again, but let's really zone in on this particular part of the lawsuit. Now, there are 4 provisions of the fair use defense. The 4th is effect on market. So the question that's being asked is, does your use take money away from the original creator? If people buy your version instead of the original, it is not fair use. So are you creating competition in the market? Now, it's pretty obvious. Is Suno competing with human musicians in the music industry? Absolutely. There's no denying that. So already we're on shaky ground with number 4. Fair use becomes a huge point of contention here in this complaint. And here's number 4. I just want to focus on this for now, and then we'll talk about the whole case. But the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. And what they're saying here is that Suno's use of plaintiff's copyrighted sound recordings is quintessentially commercial and creates directly competitive digital music files that serve the same purpose as the recorded music plaintiff create and substitute for genuine recordings. So in other words, people can generate music that was illegally trained on, according to the lawsuit, on the American Dollar, on these 2 producers' music catalogs, and then simply just replace them rather than pay them to create music for film, for TV shows, etc. And that violates fair use. Fair use is for teachers who are copying excerpts from copyrighted books to give to their students for them to learn. It's not for, multi-billionaire trust fund kids to become even richer by stealing, music from poor and middle class musicians. Now, to make this really clear, here's this website, and if I click on this website and go to, this just looks like an innocent website. Look at this. Claims to be a musician, but it's just Suno ads. So I did an expose on Suno's advertising practices, and it's pretty scummy in my opinion. What they do is they get these tiny little pages that either misrepresent themselves as media outlets or, in this case, an individual musician, and they just run ads. And I'm going to show you an example of one of the ads from this exact page. So here's one that I'm talking about. Let me move my face out the way. This is an ad, very clearly an ad from that page. And what this ad is meant to do is to compete with sound libraries. So on the one hand, you have the sad loser riding a bike, because as we know, bikes are terrible. And these are for all the brokies who still use stock music libraries like Pond 5. And the creators who use Suno, they're driving a sports car, they're polluting the planet, which is way cooler. And so very clearly, Suno in their advertising campaigns are competing, not just with people like the plaintiffs, like the 2 producers who compose music for film, but also libraries, stock music libraries, such as Pond 5. And I bring up Pond 5 because Pond 5 was scraped, according to the recent Suno hack, by Suno. So I'm guessing Pond 5 is probably going to take legal action against Suno. We'll see what happens, but I'm calling it. But back to copyright infringement. You can't simply go to Suno and type in "make me a track that sounds like the American dollar." Or can you? Well, there's been extensive research on this. Here's an article in Music Tech. Journalist proves how easy it is to trick Suno Studios' copyright filter to make ripoffs of Beyonce, Black Sabbath, and more, because they trained on all of their music, so it's there. It should be pretty simple to do, and it is. Suno claims that you can't type in certain prompts that infringe on copyrights of others. But according to this lawsuit, right here, it says plaintiff tested Suno's product and generated outputs using a series of prompts that pinpoint a particular sound recording by referencing specific copyrighted recordings owned by plaintiff. You can do this with Suno. Go on YouTube right now. They show you how to do it. How to skip copyright in Suno remixes without getting blocked. How to make AI cover songs with copyrighted lyrics. They're showing you how to do it with Suno. Here's a Suno hack, hacking Suno to reproduce hits.
All right, I'll get straight to the point. If you want to find out how to replicate popular songs using AI to use in your videos without getting flagged on the algorithm or being demonetized, click the timestamp below. It'll take you right.
Guess what he's using?
Influence the
Suno.
same, and I go audio.
So I think the next couple years is going to be really interesting, especially when it comes to these lawsuits, because as I said, I'm guessing that more lawsuits are coming down the pipeline. And the fact that these are two individual producers who are suing Suno shows that, hey, individuals can absolutely sue Suno for millions of dollars if they can simply create enough evidence that shows not only that their livelihoods are being threatened or negatively affected by Suno, but also that their copyrights have been directly infringed on. And I think a lot of people have a case, especially if we go back to the point where there was that expose showing all these producer tags ranging from Cash Money AP to Honorable C Note being output without even any sort of prompting from Suno. So let's talk about the lawsuit in general. Let's get Dame's opinion. I was actually surprised by his opinion on this. What do you think he had to say about this? Let's see. The name of the group is the American Dollar, and they're a production duo. And what they found, I don't know how they came up with this number. I checked the actual case. Suno faces a copyright infringement lawsuit by them, blah, 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 alleging the platform ingested 236 of their songs to train its AI models, but they're also putting a dollar amount similar to the RIAA lawsuits on each incident of infringement. So I believe what they're seeking, it says they're seeking $150,000 per track, and that times 236 is an excess of 35 million. But they're also alleging that their income from music has gone down by 80% since Suno's launch date, since Suno's public launch date. And they have the statistics to corroborate this. What do you think?
What is that they say? Correlation does not necessarily mean causation.
Yeah.
I would have to better understand. I mean, if they can get this bread, then get it. I just don't understand how they could prove that Suno's existence led to their decrease in revenue. Like I would love to see how they would prove that or think that. I can't imagine, like, all their fans, like, are, instead of listening to their music, they're now creating music on Suno and listening to their own music.
Yeah. So what I understand, well, one, they're producers, so they put music out, but they also license music. They're big into sync. Ironically, Warner Brothers has synced some of their stuff, and they're partners with Suno. But they did at one point. If you look at their Spotify, their highest streamed track is at nearly 50 million, yet their monthly is currently 50,000. So they're probably correlating that drop to Suno's launch date, and they're also correlating their sync income to Suno's launch date. So if that's the case, if people are now starting to use Suno to create similar sonic beds for sync, that's news to me, because I didn't think that the sync world was accepting of that.
So they're essentially saying, as producers, because you've taken our music and put it into Suno, people that would have came to us for production are now just going to Suno, and Suno has our music history, and people can recreate our sound using Suno instead of coming to us and brokering a deal.
Well, they're saying more than that too, actually. So here's the actual case with all of the arguments on behalf of the plaintiff. They tested Suno's output using a series of prompts that pinpoint a particular sound recording by referencing specific copyrighted recordings owned by plaintiffs. So you know how Suno has these measures where it claims that you can't like you can't go on to Suno and ask it to create something that sounds like Michael Jackson Thriller, right? But there's a way to get around it by saying, create a 80s new wave pop song for Halloween. There's a way to get around it where it's very clear the songs that you're referencing, which are, famous songs, copyrighted material, and then you get that output. So what they're saying is that they found a way to bypass Suno's copyright protection and generate music that sounds just like what they've already created based on certain prompts that very clearly point to their own catalog. And you're seeing a lot of this. I mean, there are a lot of articles, a lot of journalists have tried this where they've gotten pretty easily past Suno's copyright measures. Either like, they'll upload an existing song, but they'll change the pitch and the speed. And then Suno will say, okay, well, this isn't copyrighted here. We'll ingest this and create something. Or they just kind of hack the prompts. And you can even go on YouTube right now and type in how to hack Suno to create famous sounding music, something like that. And people tell you how. And it's not anything that Suno seems to care about stopping, because this is a feature that, let's be honest, people want that feature. Like if you use Suno, you want the ability to control your prompts so that they sound like a real world reference. Like you want the ability to create a Michael Jackson sounding track.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm cool with the lawsuits, and let's muddy up the waters, make it more difficult for. I mean, at the end of the day, like AI is here to stay. But I'm super cool with artists getting money via lawsuit or however, because these platforms have, illegally used your music to train their AI. So I'm with it. Muddy up the waters, make it difficult for these companies. I'm rooting for them. I don't know if they're going to get the 35 million, but shit, even if they get $1 million, a few 100,000, it's a win.
Yeah, I mean, streaming is here to stay, and we're still upset about the policies and the licensing deals and the royalty rates.